Cascading the official exam in Moodle. I was actually quite excited when I read your summary of this, so I actually will be watching quite intently myself. Thank you very much for coming and presenting, and without further ado, I'll pass the floor over to you, Miranda. It's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Julian. So welcome everyone. For me, it's actually a nice time on a Sunday, but some of you might be getting up really early or staying up late to watch me, so thank you. So my presentation, I'll just start by introducing myself. So my name is Miranda and I work at Kineo Pacific. So I'm a senior instructional designer there, and before I started this job, I worked at Unitech in Auckland, where I had a lot of work in Moodle. And yeah, now I'm mostly making content, but I have a few clients where I still make Moodle stuff. And one of them is the Coast Guard boating education. And they had some e-learning questions. So I've been working with them for a while. I'll just give you a quick overview of what these people do. So there's a different approach in different countries in the world regarding boating. And in New Zealand and some other countries, there is an education model instead of a license model. So basically, if you put it roughly, in New Zealand, anyone can just buy a boat and go out and doesn't have to have any kind of license or course. So that's where the education model steps in. Where Coast Guard boating education tries to educate people on the rules of the sea and so on. So these people have a lot of work, and so they have a few initiatives. So obviously they have classroom courses, which are mostly followed by people doing like a full day skipper or boating course. And since a few years, I've been working with them on getting some things online. Now, they have started off with a few very graphical applications that are more a bit of a teaser to kind of make people aware of what is dangerous, what are important safety points when you go out on the water. And so these are two very nice modules that I would like you to have a look at them if you have time. They're actually kind of games on jet skiing and kayaking. But so that's not what I'm talking about today. They have home study packs. So very simple, like it used to be with all distance education a long time ago, was you get a pack in the mail, you read it, and you do an exam either in a classroom, or you get a pack to fill in and sign that you are actually the person doing this. So with those home study packs, one of the problems was a very low finish rate. So people would buy the home study packs. They still do. They get very nice CD-ROMs. They get study guides. But yeah, there's actually a very low amount of people that in the end really do the exam. So there was a strong feeling that something needed to be done about it. And so they called me in to see whether we could do something with online learning. So Coast Guard was, basically the people that work there, they have very little knowledge of the online learning. So my suggestion to them was to use Moodle, since I'm a great advocate of it, and just look at getting people with a home study pack. So they weren't ready to really put content online. They are thinking about it, but they're still a bit wary of doing that because they've got all the materials in home study packs. So to link an online presence to the study pack and also make the exam online. So the course that we chose to start with, because it's a very important one for them, and it's also one that they hope to get official. So they're talking about the Maritime New Zealand and so on to get this as an official online exam, is the handling of a VHF radio on a boat. So we started with that, and then we needed a plan. So the important one was to follow up the people that had those home study packs. That was a very important first thing. How are we going to do that? Because now they were just left floating. And then the exam seemed to be quite daunting, quite a lot of questions, and either go in to do it with an examiner or just do it on paper. And also they didn't have anyone to talk to, so there was no peer-student contact. Now these three things I felt were immediately a very good example of being able to solve in Moodle. So most of you can already think of some solutions, undoubtedly, since you're all Moodle people. So I came in with Moodle Tool to the rescue. I was very keen to go and use Moodle 2 because I'd worked with 1.9 all the time at Unitech and was actually quite keen to give all those new things a try. So we installed Moodle 2.2. Now, a bit of the topic, the first experience with that was a little bit of a problem, since the guy that installed it upgraded PHP to be able to to have the 2.2 running, and didn't tell anyone. So all the rest they had on that server that was based on the previous version of PHP just fell over. Though that was a bit of a trouble moment, but we solved that. And so Stefan, I'll get to that in a minute. So the home study pack is still sent on. Oh, I have an empty slide here. What happened? Julian, any idea what's happening? I have. For some reason, I used Smart Art, so maybe depending on the version, because I see that my slides look a little bit different. Okay.
Sorry
Yeah,
for the
so,
delay there, Miranda.
Yep.
Sadly, not sure what's happening there myself. The Adobe Connect software tries to convert your PPTX file, and sadly, it's decided to leave this animation out. I'll see if I can go through
not even
and
an animation,
replace it for you, but it may
yeah.
not be possible.
Okay.
My apologies.
No, it doesn't matter. So maybe if I could use a whiteboard, I can draw what was on there. Well, so basically there were four things that we wanted to do. We wanted that communication. That was one. Then secondly, we wanted to take the daunting the daunting exam away. And then we also needed some official completion. And we also needed people to be able to indicate that they were who they really are, so some kind of declaration. So I'm just going to move on to the next slide. We've just got some pictures. So each time, actually, my menu is in the Smart Art, so you will be missing the link here and there. I'll try to explain. So the first thing we did was link learners to a tutor with a news forum, a peer forum, and a chat room. So basically, instead of just sending a home pack and leaving people to their own devices, in a sense, the idea is to give them the opportunity to choose a tutor that doesn't live far away. So I'm just saying people that are around Christchurch can choose a Christchurch tutor. So we can, for example, they can put in local calls to ask for information. But basically, learners must be linked to a tutor, and the tutor has a news forum. The students can talk to each other in a peer forum, and the tutor can also open up a chat room and put in put in times that he is attainable. So there was also a very nice use of Moodle groups in there. So past the menu. So the next thing we made was a huge question bank with categories. Now this VHF radio stuff is very official, so that means that it must apply to New Zealand quality outcomes. So we made a full question bank where we had several questions per outcome, and then proceeded to cutting the content into 3 big pieces, where we would offer people 3 practice quizzes and 3 official assessments, all sourced from that same question bank. So it was a very nice economical use of that question bank. And then we had to move on to that cascading system that my title is about. So basically people do a practice quiz, they do it a zillion times, so they got a random from the question bank, they go through it as many times as they want for practice, and once they get 80%, we open the official quiz for them from that first part. And so at their ease, because actually they're the same questions, but they might come up in different order or they get a different selection because it's that question bank. So they proceed to doing it officially if they want to. So I will show you the whole thing a little bit later. So the practice quiz is still open, so if they still feel not sure, they can continue doing a practice quiz until they feel completely ready to do the official one. And once they've got 80% on official quiz 2, official quiz 1, the second part opens, and it's the same procedure for the 3. So that's why I call it a cascade. It just tumbles down. And then we needed 2 extra things, especially for that official exam. Now I did quite a bit of research on that, and I know it's a very worldwide concern for some people. Like, is this student who they say they are? Is not someone else taking that exam? But basically, there's not many things you can do, as you probably all know. Either you call them into an official room with someone supervising them or whatever. But that completely defeats the online purpose, of course. So we just decided to have a kind of a declaration. And then the next thing was the complete finish. So obviously there must be some kind of a certification or a trigger of an email to the admin at the end so that people can get their certificate. So those were the considerations. And yeah, so I suggest we visit the course now to see how I solved all that. Yeah, the third-party supervision. But Stefan, we're talking about people who are doing actually an exam that they don't really need to do even officially. So they're doing that at home, and we were trying to take that away, that pressure that seemed to make that people didn't really finish the exam. So I looked at all the options, but that, yeah, okay. Yeah. I hope everybody can still see what I'm doing. All good? Yep. So separate from the quickly separate from the cascading exam, we just love the opportunities of making much nicer theming in this version of Moodle as well. So a graphic designer made this based on, I'm just going to quickly log out to show you the login button because I think it's really neat. So a graphic designer made this, and so the people from Catalyst here in Wellington did the theming, so it's all in line with the Voting Education new look. So as you see, at the moment there's only, because this site isn't really live yet, so at the moment we only have this one course on there. And I'm going to show you the structure of what I have on here first. And then I'm going to show you the student view as well. So we have the messages from the tutor, which is just a news forum, and as the tutors are assigned to a group, belong to a group with students, they can send specific messages to their students. For example, like, you can call me from 9 to 11 today at this and this number. And obviously tutors can also look at the reports of their students, which is what we are trying to achieve, so they can follow them up. Like, yeah, typical things like they can track whether people have already been to the course, whether they are struggling with one of the practice quizzes, getting really low scores or not completing. So they can really follow them up, while with the home study packs, they were just out there with their paper. And there wasn't much personal follow-up, so we can do that with this. And having said that, there is a financial incentive for the tutors when people finish their exam and get a certificate. So that's the plan. Now, looking at those conditional activities, I was really excited about these new features and was happy to play around with them. So this is my first big try of understanding the completion and conditional activities. So I had a lovely play with them. So we have a practice quiz first for background knowledge and common features of VHF. And so once you get 80%, you go to this. Now this is a choice, the terms and conditions. So it was a bit of a struggle to find a solution for that official declaration of I am who I am and I'm doing this exam. Now, after a bit of searching, I found a very simple solution, and I know that a choice is not, well, sorry, you can't see, I'll show it oh, sorry, I'll just put the editing on. So let me go back. I can show you how it's set up. You can actually make, and probably some of you know, they make a choice with one choice. So there's just one option, and that made it really easy. So basically, when you look at those terms and conditions, you say you limit the number of responses allowed, and people can only answer I agree, and they only have one option to answer that. So it's really a funny use of a choice, but it worked. So so that's how this is how the official declaration works. So you have no choice but to say yes, this is me, and it gets tracked as completed. I'm gonna go back. Yeah, so this is complete when the user makes a choice, and the choice obviously is yes, so you've said you agree. So once you've completed that, your official assessment will open, and that's only open, not available until the activity Terms and Conditions 1 is marked complete. And so the same thing goes on when in that official assessment you've got 80%. You open the practice quiz, and the whole system comes back 3 times. Okay, so don't look at the last one. This is just a full a quiz with all the questions for the technical person to check whether they are right. I'm just going to show you the quiz as such as well, just to show you what it looks like. Okay, so obviously what I might do, since I've shown you how it's put together, I might just log out and log in as a student so you get a nice view of what it looks like. Okay, so for me as a student, I only have the practice quiz because obviously I haven't attained 80% yet, so I don't see any of the other stuff here. I'll look at my last attempt. You can see what I've already done. So it's also nice because people can just stop and go back at a later time, because we're looking at trying to get people with a busy schedule also to finish the quiz. So we have a mixture of multiple choice, multiple answer, and also drop-down questions, because one of the things that we had to teach them was Mayday messages. Now, I guess that most of you know what Mayday messages are. Julian, I'm just, if I switch back to see what people say in the chat, can I still, are you still seeing my screen? I'm just wondering if I switch to Adobe Connect. Okay, good. No, it's fine. I'm just wondering if I quickly look at the chat to answer people's questions, that whether you can still see my screen. Okay, so I was talking about those Mayday questions. So obviously these questions in the paper exam are open, so you need to write it down. It's got a specific order of things to say. So you need to obviously say Mayday, 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 and then continue to give the official number of your boat, the name of your boat, where you are, and so on. And it's all got a bit of an official way of saying things, even though people are in a panic. So it was a bit of a think about how we were going to do that. So we gave them a big drop-down choice with sentences that they had to put in the right order, and that seems to work. But just showing you that there's loads of questions in there. We still need to spruce them up a bit with the nicer images. I'm just going to go back to the course. So if we I'm just going to log out as a student and go back as a tutor, and that will give you the familiar view of just this is how the tutor will see it, and in their courses they can look at the participants And so this guy, this testing tutor, has 5 students. So we've got 20 test students set up at the moment and 4 tutors, and they each have 5 students. And so obviously in the forum, the news forum, they can only talk to these students, and these students will be in a group, geographical groups, unless someone for some reason wants absolutely to have a friend of his as a tutor in Auckland while they live in Wellington. Something like that. So obviously the tutor can also see those reports, and they can see what their students have been doing. So that I guess you all know these reporting things. So I'll just go back to my own admin login. Okay. So we've looked at the whole cascading idea, and I see some of you had some extra ideas around the online tutoring, and so we're really looking at those different options. Skype, it's just a bit of it's a bit of a slow pace, I think, mostly also because the stakeholders and the people that I work with are still slowly getting into what this actually means and what can be done. So I gotta kind of feed little spoonfuls, and then there's like maybe Skype is an option, or maybe you can do a chat. Also, what will exactly happen? So yeah, so those audio choices, we're looking at that. At the moment, they've got quite nice CD-ROMs that they send out to people, and I have suggested to get that material just onto Moodle, because basically the guy that made it all appears to have made it in Articulate, so it should be quite easy to cut it into pieces and bring it online and track it as if we export it as SCORM. And those reactions onto audio, we were planning that. Yeah. Now there's, I was thinking that I'm going to be finished way too early unless you guys have loads of questions. One very important thing that I still had to look at was completing the whole program. So obviously you go through all these cascading completions, but unless you get someone who goes and checks it all the time, it would be nice to have some kind of trigger that says course completed, because the tutors might not always be aware, or especially the central person that does the administration. So I had a play with the completion tracking as well. And so basically what we're going to do is make all the activities need to be completed to be able to have a completed course, and that completed course will then give out start the certification. Now that is something I still need to look at, and one of my ex-colleagues at Unitech, that some of you might know, Tabitha, has shown me a very nice certification module. So I'm going to give that a try next to see whether we can trigger printing certificates. That's going to be a next thing to try. Stuart, so Boating Education is a not-for-profit organization and gets mostly subsidized by Maritime New Zealand, Water Safety New Zealand, and they do have a fee, but that fee is quite low. I think it's about $40 or $50. So yeah, they do have to try to be self-sufficient, let's say, even though they get this, yeah, they get subsidized. Yeah, so boating education is kind of part of Coast Guard, but not completely. So they're moving away from it a bit more, especially with changing their name this year to boating education instead of Coast Guard education. But it is, yeah, I don't know how many of you are Kiwis, but last weekend the need for boating education was brought to the surface with the tragic accident here in the Manukau Harbour again. For the people that are not from New Zealand, so there was a dad who took, I think, 3 of his kids and a nephew out in one of those little metal aluminum dinghies, and they got caught by a rogue wave just in the Manukau Harbour, not even far from the shore, and their boat tipped over, and the dad and the eldest boy died. And the youngest, who was 2, was saved by a fisherman who dove off a bridge to get the little guy. But so the main thing was that none of them were wearing life jackets. And the dad, with all his good intentions, didn't have a clue what he needed to look out for on the sea. So the boating education is a very important institution. So basically that's what I've done using the completion tracking and the conditional activities that we are so happy to have in Moodle 2 to hopefully cater for something that will be used more once we get this one on the road and it gets officially approved as well. So it's gonna be out there quite soon as a tryout exam. Then hopefully we get the radio frequency people to approve it as an official exam, and once we've got this as kind of a pilot, we are going to move on to getting other content online and also other subjects in that same kind of environment, and really put that online tutoring to point. Now you must also understand that the people that are mostly doing those tutoring, yeah, they're just enthusiastic boaties. Most of them are still a bit wary of online stuff, so it might take a while. They also need a bit of training on using this system because they might not really feel so comfortable with putting messages in forums, and some of them might are probably gonna take to it like a fish to water, but others are just gonna struggle a bit. We presented the idea last year on the boating education conference here in Auckland, where all the tutors from the whole country were together, and so there was this very polarized reaction of some people who were really enthusiastic and saw it going, and then others who were just like, oh, so you're going to replace us by computers. So it was this typical reaction. So we'll still have to work on some people to make them understand. That's why the financial incentive to have finishing students is actually there as well, and to make them realize that those home study people are anyways people that they would never see in their classrooms, so that actually they are an extra on top of the people that they have in the classroom, that they just have online students as well now. And once they get used to the medium, they might really like it, and also see that if they treat their students well, they might come back for another course. So any specific questions out there? Because I'm kind of through my talk actually. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Does anyone have some specific questions or especially specific suggestions? I see a few passing here. Yeah, the audio is really something that we can do, and that I still got to. But one of the things is I really need to work out with the people from Coast Guard how we can educate the tutors on all those little options, those extra options they can use. Quite a few of the language tutors at Unitec used to use that audio to work with their ESOL students. So, and it was a very neat way of doing that. But not only the tutors, but some of your students really need to understand what they're working with. So it's a very, very diverse target audience and a diverse tutor audience that we have to educate into working online.
Sorry,
Yeah, Nanogong.
I don't
Yeah.
want to cut off any questions whatsoever. I just want to make sure that before people start disappearing, that I just give an official thank you to Miranda. I'm sorry we had a couple of issues with the slides there. What you can do
Well,
if
I
you
hope everyone got the structure. I'll upload it on the session page as well, so you can see the links between the page.
yeah.
Yeah.
Look, on behalf of the team, as I've been saying to many presenters, iMoot will not be a success without you and the sessions that you bring as presenters. And so we're very grateful that you've taken time out of your weekend, which is, I guess, typically your you time, to present online. So on behalf of the team, thank you very much for presenting. But please do keep going. If you've got any more questions, keep them coming, and enjoy the rest of iMoot.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Julian. And I'm enjoying this as much as ever. Well, thank you all. I will upload a presentation in this space, and if no one has any questions, I think I better go upstairs because I hear a lot of noise, and I think my 3 boys have kind of done with being quiet now.